the footballgameplan.com, where football makes sense. I'm Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Bring you our 2013 preview of the Sheraton Hawaii Bowl between the Boise State Broncos and the Oregon State Beavers. Now let's take a look at some keys to victory for both teams, starting with the Broncos.
Gone is longtime coach Chris Peterson as he's taking the University of Washington head coaching job, and Bob Gregory will take over as interim head coach. Now, Gregory will be in charge of one of the most efficient and well-balanced offenses in the country. This week versus Oregon State, the Broncos will try to make this a horizontal game by attacking the perimeter in the running game with talented tailback Jay Ajayi and the quick passing game by working the slot receiver Shane Williams-Rhodes. Especially with the Beavers making an extra attempt to try to stop the run, that'll give Boise State the chance to generate a big play by forcing the Beavers to make plays one-on-one in space. Defensively, the Broncos are an excellent pressure defense in that 4-2-5 led by outstanding edge rusher DeMarcus Lawrence, and this week a lot of the pressure will be on those two inside linebackers, freshman Tanner Vallejo and sophomore Tyler Gray, as the Beavers are a pro-style offense and they'll try to challenge the lighter interior with the lead, ISO, and power plays. And they'll also be tested on the flanks facing one of the best receivers in the country in Brandon Cooks. Now let's move over to Oregon State in this ball game, and they're a well-coached football team under Mike Riley. And this week versus Boise State, it's time they get back to basics, and that's being dominant on both ends of offense, because right now Oregon State is tilted far toward the passing game, and that kills their balance. However, you can understand why with the Biletnikoff Award winner Brandon Cooks' ability to do damage at all three levels: short, intermediate, and deep down the field. Now defensively, the talent is definitely there, but in order to get Boise State into a one-dimensional mode, guys up front will have to start shedding blocks. You may even see a more conscious effort to stop the run by designating an extra guy in the box. What gives the Beavers the luxury to do so is the fact that they trust their corners, led by Rashard Reynolds on the outside, to man up one-on-one with opposing wide receivers. The X factor for the Broncos will be interim head coach Bob Gregory and how aggressive he calls his game on both sides of the ball. Will they go more aggressive defensively as far as trying to stop the run or getting pressure on Sean Mannion, or will they go more aggressive on the offensive side of the football with taking more shots deep down the field? The X factor for the Beavers will be their linebacking core. They have to make a concerted effort to stop the run. They can't allow the Boise State Broncos balance, otherwise they'll struggle as a whole defensively. Here are some coaching points for both teams in this ballgame. Zone blitzing from Brandon Cooks' side could lead them to success versus this passing game of Oregon State. It will force Sean Mannion to go to other options as he will look away from that side where the blitz is coming from. And they have to spread the field only to run the football. I think if they widen out that defense, they have a better chance of playing in the box versus that defensive front seven of Oregon State. And they have to own the middle of the field and the seam on defense. You want to take away Mannion's main option to go across the middle of the field and go down the seam. He wants to fit that football in there. If they can force him to go down the sidelines, they have a better chance of matching up versus those receivers in that passing game of Oregon State. And for Oregon State in this ballgame, the biggest battle they're going to have to win defensively is between their top corner, Rashard Reynolds, going against the outstanding receiver, Matt Miller, who's 6'3", 220 pounds. Reynolds has to win this matchup throughout the course of the ballgame in order for that secondary to have success in stopping what Boise State wants to do passing. And they have to work the misdirection game in a running game. I think that's how they can get the running game going, trying to influence those edge rushers to fly upfield and hit these guys with different traps, maybe a little bit of a counter, or maybe even whamming those guys inside to get the ground game going. And I would also move the pocket for Sean Mannion, give him different launch pad spots to throw the football. That way you can also elude the rush without having to do something dramatic in pass protection. Now here are some 2014 draft prospects you want to keep an eye on. A lot of talent in this ball game on both sides of the ball for both teams. Two guys that stand out to me the most are DeMarcus Lawrence for Boise State, an outstanding edge rusher, and Brandon Cooks, the talented wide receiver for Oregon State. But when you look at Oregon State's defensive end, Scott Crichton, this is another guy that brings a lot of pressure off the edge and also does a great job versus the run. Both he and Lawrence, in my opinion, would make better stand-up edge rushers in the 3-4 defense at the next level. We look at cornerback Rashard Reynolds for Oregon State, another talented player coming out that program, and Matt Miller, keep an eye on him. Very underrated receiver, catches everything thrown this way, should be a talented player at the next level. He's only a junior, so he has another year of seasoning, but he's definitely going to be a good one. An outstanding quarterback duel in the 2003 Hawaii Bowl between Kevin Kolb and Timmy Chang as Houston took on Hawaii. Now, this game was a back-and-forth affair that went into triple overtime as the Hawaii defense was finally able to stop Jackie Battle, who ended up running for over 125 yards and helped June Jones outlast Art Browse's Cougars 54-48. The 2003 Fort Worth Bowl was the inaugural game between two mid-majors in a quote-unquote prove-yourself bowl as the 11-1 TCU Horned Frogs, ranked 19th in the country, took on the 18th ranked 12-1 Boise State Broncos. Now, after trading punches for 3 quarters in typical Broncos fashion, they saved the best for the final stanza as the defense shut down the Horned Frogs on offense and scored the game-winning touchdown as quarterback Ryan Dinwiddie hit tight end Derek Showman on an 18-yard strike to win 34-31. The 1942 Rose Bowl wasn't played in its usual spot in sunny Pasadena, California because of the recent Pearl Harbor attacks, so it was moved to Durham, North Carolina, where the number 2 Duke Blue Devils, coached by legendary coach Wallace Wade, took on the number 12 ranked Oregon State Beavers. Now, the Beavers, led by halfback Donald Durden, who was the game's MVP, pulled off the monumental upset in what many call the greatest upset in Rose Bowl history by knocking off Duke 20-16. John Reid was an outstanding linebacker for Boise State from 1979 to 1982. He was a 2-time first-team All-Big Sky Conference performer, as well as the conference's Defensive Player of the Year. In 1981, he was a consensus All-American. In '82, he set the school record for most TFLs in a season with 31, and he finished his Broncos career with over 171 tackles. Heisman Trophy winning quarterback Terry Baker was an outstanding player for Oregon State from 1960 to 1962 and was a tremendous athlete as well. Played point guard on the Beavers basketball team and finished his Oregon State career with over 3,400 yards passing, 23 touchdowns, and even rushed for 1,500 yards and 15 touchdowns. In addition to the Heisman Trophy, he also picked up the Maxwell, the Pop Warner Award, and Sports Illustrated Sportsman of the Year. I like Boise State in this ball game. Despite Chris Peterson leaving to go to Washington, I think this is a very talented football team on both sides of the ball. They're well balanced on offense and defensively. They not only can stop the run, but they can also get pressure on the quarterback. So I think they're just a much better football team than Oregon State. So I see the Broncos winning the 2013 version of the Sheraton Hawaii Bowl.